Welcome to Jan's Views, a place where I share my views and listen to yours. Whether you are here for my artwork, live streams, shorts, or just for the giggles, please be assured I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope that you will enjoy your time here on my channel. I would be eternally grateful if you would give a like to the video, consider subscribing and, dare I ask, even become a member. So without further ado, let's do this.
As a lengthening shadow sweeps and creeps silently and stealthily erasing sunlight, the dark veil of depression skillfully transcends our thoughts with oppressive gloom, searching and probing for any positivity to swamp and drown with vehement force and velocity. Logical thoughts are no longer viable, the mind a blur of emotional confusion catapulting random negative notions around a sensory minefield.
Good evening. How are you all? Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. Oh, I hope you're all well. I hope you've all had a good day. Today, we're going to be talking about mental health. Just in case you can't read there on the screen, we're talking about mental health. It's a serious matter. It's something that I've spoken about in the past. And it's something that I've never hidden. I've never hidden the fact that I've got a mental illness and that I struggle sometimes with my mental health. Do I allow it to completely rule my life? I don't think so. Not really, she says. Listen, you have your ups and your downs. And the best way to deal with it is to surround yourself with positivity. Surround yourself with positive people. In my case, positive, creative people. I like that. That's why I like YouTube. And that's why I'm very careful with whom I associate with, because I do believe that the people that I am slowly allowing into my circle are people that I can trust and also that aren't going to mess with my mental health. Before I look at the before I actually look at the chat, I'm just going to play you this. As I said, I've never hidden the fact that I have mental illness. The reason I have mental illness is because of the life I had, not only as a child, but also as an adult. My mental illness is not difficult to work out what it is, but it's caused by trauma. I've had a tremendous amount of trauma in my life, not only as a child, but also as an adult. Up to say 5-7 years ago. So that's why I have mental health issues, and that's why I wear them. I kind of wear it like a badge, and on my badge it says survivor. So that's what I want people to take away from this stream. I don't want you to feel that you're caught in the shackles of mental health. You don't have to be, okay? I use part of my mental health or part of my mental illness. It's quite ironic, really, but part of my mental illness allows me to be the person that I really am. And those that get close to me will realize that. Anyway, so without further ado, let's just dip into this. As you know, we don't talk drama on here, but I thought this was quite telling and quite instrumental in the type of treatment that somebody who does have mental illness may suffer when they're online. I'm not going to sit here and slag off this individual. This individual obviously has mental illness himself. And I'm not having a dig at him. I'm just saying it's fairly obvious. For somebody who has had mental illness for most of my life, really, I recognise it in others. So when I talk about it, I know what I'm talking about. So anyway, this individual here, we don't need to say his name. His name is up there. But this was an instance where dear Bridget had me on her panel. I'm not going to say anything bad about Bridget. It was a difficult situation for Bridget to be in, but it's a very, very good example of how people with mental illness are treated, not only online, but also in real life. So let's just listen to this little bit. It's a tiny, tiny bit. So pay attention. You're right. You're right there.
Hussy.
You're right there.
Okay, Hussy, let me ask you. What? I hate you. I hate you so much. What is your major contention with Jan? In a normal voice.
Speakers Ken.
This is my normal voice, honey. Yes, it is.
Speakers Ken.
She is mentally ill.
Yes, I am.
And now I'm laughing at her. She's mentally ill.
Yes.
You're mentally unstable.
Yes.
You really, really are. And I don't know if you're on meds, you're not taking meds, but you are mentally unstable, lady. And people have gotten restraining orders against you.
Really?
You are obsessed with gay men.
Oh my God.
You all,
Right, so I'm going to stop it there because the rest of it, I don't want him screaming and swearing on my channel. Thank you very much. And that's one of the reasons I don't respond here on my channel to this, to the sickness that is this individual. So now I'm going to come over to comments and I'm going to open up the floor to my panel, who I'm sure are thinking, oh, for God's sake, Jan, sort yourself out. But anyway, I thought as we're talking mental illness, I'll be very honest about it. I'll talk about it. I'm not ashamed of it. It's who I am, guys. It's who I am. And if somebody says, oh, you've got mental, yes, I have actually. But the fact that this individual felt that he could mock me for it just shows the type of person that he is. So anyway, how the hell are you? I hope you're all good. Let's put up this for our Edna, who wants to come in. Because she's a funny one, is Edna. She's so funny. Anyway, so who've we got in? So we've got darling Edna. We've got, oh, did I post it? I forgot if I posted it. We've got Chef. We've got, oh, Chef's getting himself about, isn't he? He's a cheeky boy. He's really cheeky. We've also got Zena. Hi, darling. It's lovely to see you. Thank you so much for coming in. Listen, guys, we may have less people in chat today. I'm fine with that. The reason is because I've made it subs only, because I just thought, I think, especially like Wellness Wednesday, we don't want the cretins in, do we? Not really. We've got Moosey. Hi, Moosey. We've got Gia. Hi, my darling. I hope you're well. We've also got Sasha. Hi, Sasha. I hope you're good. You're going to be silly in chat today. Yeah, we know. We know that Sasha's always very silly. We've also got Yeehaw. She's in. And Who else have we got? And then we've got our bridge. Hi, darling. I hope you're well. Um, and I think that's it for now, is it? If I've missed anyone, I apologise. But so we need to get on with this, don't we? I'm not going to be playing lots of videos. Edna, where the hell are you? Get yourself up here. Um, let's see, what's this? I want a cameo request. Okay, no, we don't talk. We don't talk. I'll chill out tonight. Oh, good, Sasha. We don't talk drama on here. That's for Drama Friday. And oh my God, we've got a lot, haven't we? We have got hell of a lot of Drama Friday. So we've also got this young lady. Hello, my darling. How are you?
Hello, Jen. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Or were you talking to
Good.
everybody else, but not me?
Everyone, yes, I'm doing
Oh,
well.
and let me just see what this is. I see you as someone who has a life full of creativity, family, accomplishments, and colour. Do you know what, Moosey? I absolutely do. And I think my haters see that as well, and they hate it, because
Yeah,
they don't have that. And that's not my fault, you know. I didn't start off very well in life, but I've managed to build a life for myself, to nurture my kids and to nurture my grandkids, and we have a good life. Yep, we certainly do. And I've got to the point I'm an empty nester now, and I love it. And I do. I love it. So many people are like, "Oh my God, oh no, I don't know how I feel." And when my kids leave home, I can't, I cannot express how much I love being an empty nester. 100%. We've got some. Anyone feeling hungry? Anyone feeling hungry? Because it looks like we've got a chef on here.
Oh, nice. Chef leftovers. Chef.
Hello, sweetness. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
There's
Yeah,
no
I'm
reading today, Chef. You can take those glasses off, sir.
Yeah, we're still reading, reading. Wellness checks and making sure
yeah,
everybody's okay.
he wants to read
Okay.
the chat. So listen,
Wellness check.
guys, what we want to do, or what I want to do really, is to try and make it as relaxed as we possibly can. Let's try and
Right.
chill tonight. We can talk about now where have you gone? I've lost you. Are you still there?
Throw us in the
Yes, I'm
trash.
here.
We're
Right,
still
I'm
in the
trying to
shower.
find you because I know. There we go. Let's stick you there. No, no, we're not talking trash, chef. We're not talking trash tonight. Behave yourself.
No, no. We're good. No. We are peachy. How's everybody doing? How's everybody's you know, week been? How's your weekend? I got plans. Okay. No, what was I
Yeah, we're
saying?
almost at the
Um,
weekend. Right, okay. So Moosey said, who can hate on that? Do you know, it's a special kind of person, I think, that hates on that.
wait,
Yeah.
Um,
hold on. I thought we were talking about mental health.
yeah, we are.
Who
We're
can hate
talking
on
about
what?
mental health. So, okay, let's delve into it. Right, Gia thinks that you should ask some questions. And if you get the answers wrong, you get punished.
She's a special one.
Right,
Well,
so
then I can go next talking about mental health. I
Brain fart for a second.
recently decided to get therapy to like really look into getting a therapist in my area, and it has been quite a journey. But in one way, it's been really insightful into who I am as a person and kind of understanding um like what that entails and standing up for myself and advocating for myself within a new arena being healthcare as an adult, which has been really interesting.
Mhm.
And also, when it comes to mental health, for me, I realized that my mental and physical are really linked. Like, if I don't feel well mentally, then I don't feel well physically either.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, is therapy expensive in the in the USA like it is in Canada?
Yes. Heck
Yes.
yeah.
So, young man,
Yes.
I've forgotten your name. Chef, Chef.
Got
I
my
like
name. That's why you threw me on the big screen so you see my name and that's it.
I like no, listen. I like that Edna has come prepared tonight. Look, mindful Edna. I like that.
Thank
Listen,
But hold
you.
on. Hold on.
let
Just
me
in
just
case
tell you a
Edna.
story. Let me just tell you a story of why I love Edna. Okay. This is the story of why I love Edna. I've got to get my phone out. Right. So earlier I spoke to her on Insta, and what did I say? I said to her, we were talking about tonight. So I said, hey, what did, and I'm not going to say the name of the person, but what did so and so want to come on panel to discuss? I can't remember. So Edna comes back with, I'm not sure, but I would imagine it's whatever you have in mind. So I wrote, oh, for some reason I thought it was mental health. And then she's come back with, mental health sounds good to me. And then she says, online friendships is another topic that comes to mind.
Oh,
Edna,
and
Edna, love,
What?
Edna, were you were you relaxing, lovely?
I forgot I said that, but you know what though? I can talk about it.
Yeah, but you went completely off track. You went completely off track. I'm saying to you, I thought she wanted to talk about mental health. So I was going to
Uh-huh.
say, can you contact her and tell her, tonight we're going to be talking about mental health. Instead, you've gone off on this tangent. Yeah, I think mental health would be a good idea. We'd already decided we were doing mental health, Edna.
Well, see, that's why I'm also in therapy, because
Oh, Edna, you're absolutely adorable. You really are. Right, back to the subject in hand. Jan, maybe you could comment on how mental health was treated and viewed by others when you were a child compared to now. That's a really, really good
oh, I
point.
like that.
Right now, as you may not all know, but I was brought up in care, which meant I was brought up in a children's home with many other children. There was a time, I think, when I was uh, over 10, maybe 11 onwards, because something fairly significant happened when I was 10 and it screwed my brain up, basically. So, whenever I sort of started, as the people in the home saw it, that they saw it that I was misbehaving, so they'd send me
Mhm.
off to a psychiatrist. Okay, now he was the last person that I would want to see. I mean, I remember I'd be taken there. He was in like a big block of offices, and I'd walk in through the door, and he was a middle-aged white guy, and he would sit there, with notes on me, and then ask me questions, sort of trying to point towards what the issue may be. Now, I knew even at that time, I knew this guy just couldn't relate to me, not just because of the color of my skin, but also because he didn't know. How could he empathize with somebody that was, that has been institutionalized, oh, I can't speak, institutionalized as a kid?
Right.
So he can't relate to that. So I used to go and I used to be stroppy. I used to sit there chewing gum, blowing bubbles, and all the rest of it. I couldn't be bothered to talk to him. I hated it. I hated going there. And he'd say, "Oh, if you want to if you want to draw anything, then you can draw something." I thought, "No, I don't want to draw anything, thanks. I just want to go home." And he'd be like,
Right.
"Yeah, I understand, maybe you're upset because of X, Y, and Z, yeah?" So I'd be like, "No, I'm all right. I can deal with that." Because as a child, I was quite a toughie as well. I was
Mm.
although I was brought up with lots of other kids, I was very independent, you know. But so getting back to what Zena said, that was how it was. That's how I was treated. Now, I don't know how other people were treated. I don't know how other children were treated if they were seen to be, you know, uh, having sort of mental issues, if you like. Um,
I
yeah, so I
remember being in
can't
school,
really.
there was, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go on, darling.
Oh, I remember there were students that were, I don't, oh, I'm trying to think, what were we calling them? Because they kind of quote unquote call them the slow kids, but I
Mhm.
don't know what would be, the politically correct term or, the appropriate term because they just have behavioral issues. They weren't
The goth and
necessarily,
the emo, they
say it
all have
again.
behavioral. They all have behavioral like properties. The goth kids to um the emu.
Well,
Oh, okay.
Nice.
interestingly, interestingly, I wasn't remedial at school. I was very bright. So I wasn't I didn't have any sort of special teaching or anything. My issues were obviously about who I was as a person. It didn't have anything to do with my education or my ability to learn. So I don't think you should really put those, I don't think you should
I mean,
put people in that sort of basket like, oh, well, if you've had trauma as a child, that means that you go in remedial class. That isn't the case. Okay.
No, I understand you and I agree, but that I'm just saying from my experience, that's how as a child, that's how mental health was treated. And Gia is the closest to what I can remember. They were considered like special needs. And that wasn't even if you had like a problem with learning, but if you just had a problem in general, you were kind of sectioned off and put towards special needs.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's
See,
kind
I
of
I never had that. I was never put down as special needs, maybe because I was too intelligent for that. And also because
Mm-hmm.
I acted differently when I was at school. I
Oh,
used to behave,
right. Mm-hmm.
and and I enjoyed the school environment. I enjoyed learning.
Oh, I
Uh,
hated school.
yeah, I did. So I was never really put into that. The issues I had, okay, as a child was that in the home, right, as I got older, I realized what the real situation was. And the real situation was I was dumped there. Okay.
Mm,
So
mhm.
my mental health issues came from that, really. It didn't have anything to do with school. I didn't have anger issues at school or anything like that. But in the home, I did, because I hated them all in there. I hated the staff in there because I knew that they were only there because they were being paid to be there. You know,
Mhm.
they were only there because, um, that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to work in a children's home. But then if another job came up, they'd go off somewhere else. And as I got older, then it became more and more apparent, and that's where a lot of the damage came from. Can I just go back to the
Mhm.
chat a bit? We've got no fapping. Hello, darling. It's nice to see you. Thanks for coming in. And I saw somebody else. Oh, Barley. Hello, sweetness. I hope you're okay. Um, so yeah, so what about you two, my panelists? What are your thoughts
Um,
on how children perhaps were treated back in the day? What are your
so
thoughts on that?
so my experience is basically kind of what Edna was saying. It's like the special needs, and I'm a witness to that because I had some mental issues, and I didn't notice. I didn't know what issue I was having, but mine stemmed from the speech I was having because I had a very hard time speaking. Like I was never the kind of person that would be up here speaking, and if I did, it took me 6 hours to get one word out, and you'd be like, "Oh, you ever gonna finish?" You know what I'm saying?
Oh, bless
Um,
you.
and the mental health part come into effect when I figured no one cared because they would label me as special needs when I was probably the smartest kid in that classroom.
Mm,
um,
Right.
mm,
they would also, say, "Oh, well, he can't read because he can't read to us out loud, so we don't know if he can read or not." I was reading at a high school level and like elementary
yeah.
school. Reading has never been a problem. It's the getting out, and I think they treated that as like a special needs and not like a mental health because it's really a mental. So your speech is really a mental thing. It's a mental
Yeah.
Oh,
blockage.
absolutely. Absolutely it is because when I worked in schools, I worked there for 8 years and I used to help out children with, that you would say in America, remedial issues, whatever. Um, and I worked with so many uh, different types of difficulties that these children had. And one boy, I think I'll always remember, he was a twin and he had selective mutism.
Mm.
And he was as bright as a button, though, but he just could not speak. And I think people underestimate that. I think people underestimate um, the mental anguish that a child would feel if they can't speak, because that's something that most of us take for granted. So I can fully understand what you were saying there. Absolutely. Um, what about you, Edna? What are your thoughts on children and mental health issues? How does it um how do you what's your opinion of how they are treated?
I think we need to treat children as little people instead of like children, separate than adults or separate from adults, which is probably like the what stems from a lot of the mental health because I think like in your case where you show or where you shared that trauma is what led to the mental health. I think that's what lead like a lot of people are in that case. And it's like a lot in a lot of cases it's almost undiagnosed because we don't realize that our trauma can create what is it like PTSD or is
Yeah,
it
yeah,
CPTSD? Yeah, where
yeah.
you go through like an emotional time and you don't deal with those emotions of it. So then it's
Mhm.
like it festers and you live in it over and over again, that's where the triggering comes in, where you get tapped in or pulled into those that time through those emotions with whatever little trigger is attached to it. And I
Yeah,
think a lot of that comes into play when we don't allow children, like if we talk to children, we treat children as other people, but sometimes we don't treat people the way we should in general, like other adults. But just let their feelings be heard, like talk to them, listen to what they have to say, that's it. And then they won't feel ignored or they won't feel like that they don't matter or that they're the cause of something. I remember I had said something just kind of flippantly to my aunt where I was like, "Oh, I don't mean to bother you." And she was like, "Stop. You're never a bother." I was like, "Ma'am, okay?" Like Calm down. I don't mean it like that, but at the same time, I really appreciated that because I was working with her and I was interrupting her. So she was like, "No, you're doing your job. You're letting me know X, Y, and Z. Like, shut up and tell me what you had to say." And it's just little words like that that kind of get stuck in a child's mind and it gets replayed. And I think that leads to the mental health issues that we have as adults.
Yes, 100. I want to sort of respond to this that no fact says sometimes that is the case that children are educationally neglected. They never look at the parents as not providing enough. It's always the child. Do you know no fact? You're absolutely right there. I mean, obviously I didn't notice it so much when I was a child, but when I was working in schools, I 100% saw that link. And, there were times when I would get quite sort of upset for the child. And just hearing a child, because I worked in secondary, which was like from 11 onwards, and to
Mhm.
hear like a little year 7 boy who would be 11, I think, say, yeah, well, I don't know. If I asked him, so what do you want to do when you grow up? Or, what would you like to do? What's your best wish for yourself when you get older? And he'd say, um, I don't know, miss. I don't really, I don't want to really be anything. My mum says I'm a bit slow anyway. So what's the point? And
Oh,
I
wow,
could
that
not
breaks your
believe
heart.
I could not
Yeah.
believe that this child was carrying that weight on his shoulders. And, he was a misbehaving boy. But when I was with him, I'm not saying I'm Miss Wonderful or anything like that. I'm not. But I do have a lot of empathy. That's, as I've said before, I suffer with being empathetic. Now, I say suffer because it's not really a nice place to be, because you just feel you feel people's pain so much as if it's your pain, you know. And
Mhm.
some of these kids, I could weep for, because it was coming from their own parents. It was coming from their own mother's mouths that he was never going to amount to anything. He's useless. And I just couldn't believe it. So I just bigged them up. I always big them up. It's the way I am. And I think because I'm empathetic, that comes quite naturally to me, to
Right.
try and make somebody feel good about themselves, because there's so many people that just feel so bad about themselves, and it's not
Mhm.
fair, and it's especially not fair when it's children, you know.
Exactly.
And I
You
do know,
wanna look
I,
at
I, I
Bridget's
do
comment?
know him now, and I remember one day talking to him. I think he was a bit older then, and I was talking to him, and he said, "Oh, miss, I want to be a hairdresser, but I know all the boys are going to laugh at me." And I said, "Listen,
Hmm.
you do what you want to do. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter what other people think." And do you know what? He's a barber. And I see him. I used to
Nice.
take my son to the barber shop where he worked, and he still called me miss. And he still
Aw.
said, I was his favourite teacher at school, because I always had time for him, and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah,
Yeah.
treat your kids, you have to big up the kids. If kids are playing up, there's normally a reason for it. And I hate to
Mhm.
say it, it's normally the parents. That's
Of
what I have
course,
to
because
say.
they're the ones whose charge they're in, right? So
Yeah.
it's like if it's not the parents' responsibility, whose is it?
Yeah, going back to my childhood, you're absolutely right there. That would probably lead to a lot of commitment attachment issues. Yeah. Caretakers coming in and out of the facility. Do you know, that's absolutely right. Because the ones that I really liked were the younger um staff, members of staff that used to come in. I didn't know they're only coming in for a year. Do you know what I mean? But I used to get on really well with them. I remember there was a woman called Marianne that I really liked, and we could chat together. And she was the first one that introduced me to makeup. And I was
Mm.
about 13 at the time, 12, maybe 13. So yeah, and then I remember over time gradually feeling this sense of dread that, eventually everybody's going to go and I'm going to be left in the world on my own.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
that's a hard thing to deal with when you're a kid. Yeah, abandonment issues. Bridget says people do underestimate the non-verbal. Oh, yes, they do. Why is it if somebody's got a speech impediment, or if somebody is so eaten up with anxiety that the poor kid can't talk, how has that got anything to do with his ability to learn? It's got nothing to
Jan,
do with
oh my
it.
goodness, I know. But the thing is, sometimes I wonder or I worry for myself because I know I come across because I could tend to be a little nonverbal sometimes. And sometimes it's helpful because people kind of put in fill in the silence with their own stuff, and sometimes it's helpful, right? So I'm like, oh great, I'm glad you that's when you took the positive out of the situation and ran with it. But who's to say that that's always happening? You come across situations of discrimination for whatever reason, and if you're not able to speak up for yourself, that's an issue.
Yes, it can be an issue, but there are ways of treating it, and ridiculing somebody, or putting a child into a remedial class is not going to do his confidence, his self-confidence
No.
any good, is it?
No, it's not. But our teachers these days are, I'm just glad I say this, are freaking lazy because these teachers really don't care. You find some teachers that will care about the kids and will do everything they can, but you have teachers
Yeah,
that don't. There was one teacher who ever had made like some kind of rule change so that way I can present to just
yeah.
her because she knew I could present to her and be comfortable. There was one teacher, okay? She was the
Mm,
only one the whole time I go to school. And I do think that did weigh on my schooling, my education, because I was always afraid to raise my hand, ask certain questions that I didn't
Mhm.
want to ask in school,
yeah.
speak out. And so I do believe that did like play a factor. Like I felt like probably, child, I probably would have been sitting over here at the University of Harvard or some, you know what I'm saying?
You
That's
could
what
have
I feel
been.
like.
You could have
But it's
been.
okay. Maybe not
Absolutely.
horrible.
I want to get back to what Bridget said here, because I do kind of agree with her. Um,
Mhm.
can you read that, Edna? She says, I disagree with Edna, with her saying
Yeah.
treating children as little people instead of children. Now, as a teacher myself, there's a balance. Okay, there is a balance.
Mhm.
You can't just think, oh well, they're just little people, because
Right.
their brains aren't fully developed. Okay, so they are going to see differently. So you can't really just look at them as, like, diminutive people. Having said that, there are ways to communicate with children that make it much easier for them to feel comfortable in your presence. And one of
Right.
them is to get down to their level. I mean, that's what I used to do. I'd let them, make them sit down. I'll sit down next to them, and you talk to them in a certain way, not in a condescending way, but in a way that they feel comfortable with. And you have a conversation with them. You don't just talk to them, you have a conversation with them. You ask them questions,
Right.
and
And
you,
that's
yeah, go
oh
on.
no, sorry. No, and that's what I meant, to clarify. I meant talk to the children as people and showing them respect and validating their emotions, not dismissing them.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And that and
absolutely.
And I actually updated my reply to Edna too, because I was like, I don't totally disagree, but I was like, hey, I
Hi,
was like,
darling. How you doing, Bridge?
I said good, but I was like, I do agree in letting them, because she said like let them express how they feel and listen to what they have to say too.
Yeah. So I'm going to read your comment. I'm so behind on the comments. Sorry. So Bridget did say, I've heard adults say, well, I'm not that smart, so it doesn't matter. I'm more than sure the person who told that to me has been told that since a child. Yes, I
Mhm.
know. It's amazing what parents say to their kids. It really is. I mean, I couldn't believe some of the things that some of these kids would come out with. So yeah, so I kind of agree with you, Edna. But I'm sort of just chiseling off the sort of the edges, if you don't mind. So Barley says, my parents treated me like a friend, not like a child. I was born an adult, and this is why I'm goofy nowadays. Child needs love and the right upbringing, not too soft, not too hard. Absolutely. Absolutely agree with you, Barley. So have you got anything to say about that, girls?
So I answered Valley in the comments too, and I agreed with her. And one of the comments I said is there are parents that are assertive, aggressive, passive, and neglectful, and there needs to be structure and caring,
Yeah,
basically. Hmm.
yeah.
Did you want to share your mental health, I guess, background or your thoughts?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so Bridget does say she used to work with a non-verbal kid. When he would get upset, I would tell him to tell me what happened. He would make sounds. I couldn't
Hmm.
understand what he was saying, but he was getting it off his chest. That's wonderful. I
Hmm.
love that. That's
Hmm.
wonderful. It's very difficult, isn't it? Because you don't want them to feel that you're forcing them
Hmm.
to speak. Let me just say hi to Capone. Hello, sweetness. I hope you're good. Hope you're well, darling.
Bonnie.
Yeah, I think one of the most challenging students that I worked with was the selective mutism
Hmm.
boy, because I'm very much, I like to get close to people when I'm talking to them, and soften my voice, and I remember a couple of times just saying to him, listen, you need to just tell me one word. Okay, that's all I want from you, darling. And he squeaked out one word. I used to help him with his exams. I used to script his exams. So it was in that scenario.
Because
Right. Go on, Bridge, what?
I was going to say that with that kid that I was talking about, like he had so much personality, but the problem was like the caretaker he had or was assigned to him, I knew he didn't like her. And he would get so
Yeah.
mad at her all the time, and he would just throw things and stuff, because he couldn't talk, but and I asked him like, "What is wrong? What is wrong?" And he's pointing and and he's
Oh,
saying what he's saying, and I'm just like, okay, all right. All right. Well, why don't you go take a walk and walk it off? Just walk it off. He's just like, and walks away, and then he comes
yeah.
back. So, like they have emotions, even though you can't understand everything that's going on, there's something there.
Yeah, of
Right.
course they do. Of
Hmm.
course they have emotions. And, sometimes kids aren't very good at expressing their emotions. Here comes Mr. Handsome again with the red hat. And I think Chef talking about his problems as a child with his speech is is very good. I'm glad you've sort of opened up a bit about that, Chef, because that must have been a very difficult time for you.
Baby, I
Um,
never thought I'd be sitting up here on the internet talking to people like this.
Oh.
And that's sometimes the reason why I talk fast. Because if I talk fast, I push it out real quick. Okay.
Yeah.
That means it comes out a little smoother. Or, sometimes I like to, make it seem like I'm thinking I'm reading. I got little tricks. Got little tricks
So
to work with.
how were the other kids at school with you?
It's a brutal.
Yeah, I know
Oh,
they are.
It's a
That's why I've
brutal.
asked you, because I know they can be.
You had some kids that were very sweet and very nice, understood, and that's understandable. But 90% of the children was like, "Oh, he's stupid. He can't read."
I
And
know.
so when you're reading out loud and you pause on a word, they're all freaking yelling like it's it's the. You're like, I know
Oh
the is THE.
no.
I'm saying, but you can't act out that way because then you get in trouble for, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I know what it is. It's just, and then when you explain to people, then it's like, oh, now I get it. But then it's like, I still don't care. Hurry up, spit it out.
but yeah.
Do you know what
It's
the
funny
best
now,
thing
but
is?
it was funny.
You know what the best thing is, though? You can laugh about it. And that's what I do.
Yeah.
I laugh. That's one of the reasons I laugh so much. It's not because it's fake, it's because I see life as such a bloody joke, and everybody takes themselves so seriously. It's like, chill, that's not going to do you any good. So let's get on to Zena. Depending on culture too, a lot of Middle Eastern families, the whole family works together. Even the children play a role and are given very adult responsibilities. That's very true. That's very true. I think also, I mean, this isn't really to do with mental health, but I think also there's a definite lack of respect in so many, especially in British society, and I'm guessing
Really?
also in American society, people don't respect their
Yes.
elders anymore, you
Right.
know, and
Well,
I'm not.
elders also don't have a lot of respect for younger generations because,
Period.
I feel like as a millennial, we're not kids anymore because we have like the whatever generations after us. But for a long time, it was like, oh, you guys are messing everything up because of X, Y, and Z. And it's like, if you look at the millennial generations, we've been through a lot. Like, so it's like, come on now. Like, we don't have to get into all of that, but it's also understanding where you are and kind of having respect for everybody, because it's not just about you.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think also you need to give a little bit of, and I know the word's not going to come to me, um, but you have to give a bit of consideration for the fact that, and respect for the fact that somebody's reached a ripe old age of something. But I think a lot of it is cultural.
Compassion.
I know my family, half of my family are Jamaican, and I'm part of like the Jamaican family group. And I'm telling you, who's in charge there. There's one woman
Hmm.
who's in charge who was married to my father, and she is in charge. Everybody talks to her with respect. If she calls people out, like she calls me and my brother and a couple of other people ponders because she says we come from over the pond. So she'll be like, "Oh, I haven't heard from any of the ponders today." So, I'd quickly text my brother and say, "Quick, she's asked after us. Get in there and say hi." But I think it's all down to respect. And, I like
Yeah.
that. I was taught to respect my elders. I don't see anything wrong in that.
No, no,
Mm-mm.
you know what? I don't either. I was taught to respect my elders, but my elders have to know. Okay, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. Don't come out of pocket with me as an elder and expect me to be respectful. Because once you come out of pocket as an elder, oh, it's a wrap. I'm treating you like a child. I'm treating you like
Right.
anybody else. But as long as my elders show me respect and they are, you know what I mean, they're not intentionally doing anything wrong. Of course, I'm always my elders, but because some of these elders don't know when to.
I know, but I wonder if that's
Because a few elders, you know what I'm talking about. Some of these elders need
I
to be
wonder if
respect.
that's a millennial thing. I wonder if that's a millennial thing because that's what Edna's just said. What do you think, Bridget?
I don't. So I'm on the cusp of millennials and Gen X. So I'm millennial. and I don't, because I remember it was pointed out. I'm not gonna say who it was in my life, but basically they were like trying to get physical with me, and they were older. They were older, and they were like, "You need to respect me," and like pushing up on me, and I was like, "Hold on, I ain't got no respect for you. You got to earn respect. Hold on." And I'm not a
That's an old
player.
boy.
Yeah, see, and we're
Listen,
much more about our feelings and, respect. Because I have a little cousin where he's basically like a little nephew, and he doesn't want to hug. He doesn't really know me like that. And if that was me, it would have been like, you better go hug so and so and
Yeah.
give him a kiss. And
Yeah.
and with me, I totally respect that he doesn't know me like that. When we've had family events, and he's like, I'm like, do you remember? He's like, nope. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll talk to you later then.
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's
But
really
you
sweet.
know, but you know why though, right? Because like that this day and age, because kids get, and this is gonna change topics, and I don't want to change topics. I'm never mind, because it's gonna change topics. So we're going to hold to the ball game. We ain't gonna go there.
Yeah,
We
we got.
don't,
Okay,
we don't
let's
miss.
get over here then. Right. Okay, this is interesting. Zena, my brother was PMLD, couldn't walk, talk, nothing, and we understood through eye movements and my tapping on his arm. One for yes, two for no, etc. Oh my goodness.
Mm.
My heart goes out to you, Zena, and your family. But yeah, I mean, there are ways that people can communicate, but I think, I think it's like what Edna said at the very beginning when she said that people don't seem to realize how much mental health can affect physical health or the other way around,
Mhm.
and I think there's so many people that are still ignorant to that. um I mean, I know when I'm not doing well mentally that my brain will trigger things in me that if I'm not careful, I can set me off and start me becoming paranoid about something. The brain is a
Mhm.
very, very strong muscle, whatever it is. What is it? It's a muscle organ.
The organ.
Organ. Yeah.
My
Right, let
weight
me
now.
say, I'm always way behind on the yeah. You know, sadly, bullies will be bullies will be bullies. And
You
one
know
thing
what?
that I've learned though is that bullies at school generally don't grow up to be bullies because the main core of a bully is that they have a very low self-esteem. So, as a child, if they're a bully, they can't really handle that. And that's why they attack other kids. Okay. That's why they make fun of other kids. Okay. Now, I think bullies as an adult, it's a slightly different issue. I might be wrong, but that's my thoughts on it. Has anyone got thoughts on that?
So some of my thoughts on it was basically what we've learned. So if you do something to a child, that child is going to do that same thing to a stuffed animal, a dog, anything else that they feel like they're superior to. They're going to do. That's like with
That's
some
a
people who care.
psychopath, though. That's psychopathic behavior.
Well, but that,
Psychopaths,
but hold
most
on, hold on.
psychopaths have attacked animals. That's one of the signs of a psychopath.
We're right. Not necessarily attack. I'm just saying like the form of, okay, like for instance, like so us African Americans, how we were raised, most of us is with that belt, huh? Right?
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
belt got on
Mhm.
that butt.
Yeah.
But why? Our ancestors from the past
Mhm.
were
Mhm. Mhm.
were whipped if they did something wrong. So that's how we raise our kids. The same thing goes with a kid. If you do something to a child
Mhm.
that makes you feel superior, or that they feel makes you more superior, they're going to redo that, or transfer that same behavior into the stuffed animals, into the
Or,
dogs, like
or even into other kids at school. That's how
other
bullies are
kids.
made
Exactly,
sometimes. Yeah.
exactly. Other kids.
Yeah.
Well, it's made sometimes from other people. That's where I was getting to.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I jumped in there when you had a really good point there. I apologise. What do you think, Edna? You haven't spoken for a while.
Oh, I'm just listening. I think you guys are getting it. Yeah.
She's just chilling. She's just chilling. So we've
Moose made
almost.
a one good statement though.
I
You
think
see
we're
what
gonna
Moose
have
said?
a break, a quick break, and then we're gonna resume. And maybe let's move on to therapy after the break. Okie
Okay.
dokie.
Welcome to my new series called Rhyme and Reason. I was once a songwriter and lyricist, many moons ago. I also wrote several pieces of poetry that I would love to share with you. All the poems come from my heart and soul. Therefore, they express what I was feeling at the time of writing. Poetry, like all forms of creativity, must emanate from deep within ourselves in order for it to be authentic.
Will I ever look in the mirror and like what I see? Not just the person I've turned out to be. I can't see the youthfulness, fun and desire, the passion, the hope, the love and the fire. Where has the spark gone that burned deep within? The trust and the faithfulness, the striving to win, the need to be greater, triumphant and strong, fearless, exciting. Where has it all gone? Sad eyes ask questions, but nothing is told. I fear I am past it, just getting old. With nothing to show apart from my rhyme, a lifetime of weakness, regret, wasted time.
Now we're back in the room.
Yeah, you tried me, Jen. No.
That chef, he just makes me die. So, okay, let's move on to therapy. Okay, who's had therapy? Put your hands up. Put your hands up in
I
the
have
chat.
my hand
1
up.
in the chat if you've had therapy. 2 if you haven't had therapy. Let's see. Edna's had therapy. I've had therapy. So, okay, Bridge as well. 1.5. Okay, 1 and no. Okay. Do you think that children should have therapy? Let's start there to begin with. Oh,
Yes.
hi, Brittany. Hello, darling. Great to see you. I hope you're well. Right. Let's start then. Who thinks that? I mean, I have to say, as a child, I didn't think the therapy helped me at all.
Mhm.
Not at all. In
Okay.
fact, it just used to make me more angry.
Well, I think that we have a long way to go, yes, and still with when it comes to therapy, because I have always been a proponent or okay, hold on, let me do this. My mother instilled in me like the proponents of having like a strong mental foundation through like religion and other methods, kind of mindfulness techniques, things like that. And I don't know if she really knew it, but now that I'm learning more about different therapies, I'm realizing what it was. And I think like when it comes to meditation, things like that, that helps everybody regardless of age. So starting
Mhm.
you off as a child with those tools can only help you exponentially across your lifetime, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, look at this poser. Look at him. Look. What are you doing with the shades on?
Dreads, what did you mean by 1.5?
Yeah, I was going to get to that, Bridge.
I have to do
Because I've only been to like one session of therapy, And it was when I was going through something, and I feel like I was looking for the person to give me an answer. Like, I need my problem solved. And I was
Yes.
just talking, and I was just like, you ain't helping me. So I'm like, I'm not doing this again.
And I think part of therapy or going into therapy, you should have like a briefing or a kind of an understanding of
Mhm.
what this is for and what
Right.
you are going to get out of this. Because as an adult a sound mind, nobody is going to tell you anything about yourself.
Hmm. Hmm.
You already know. And if you need certain things to kind of help you shape your understanding or, X, Y, and Z, however but you have to have your system, you have to have whatever framework and place in it intact. Because if you don't have that, I don't think the therapy can work. Because I
Hmm.
think you have to have a strong frame for therapy to be like wrapped around if we're using like an art canvas and a painting situation.
Hmm.
Can I just jump on and say, Brittany, I put the link on there, sweetheart. Just click on there and then you'll come in and
Malcolm
I'll
X
let
right
you
now.
on. Yeah. I don't know who this poser is here. Look at this guy. Look, I
X.
can't take him
Malcolm X.
seriously.
I feel like Malcolm X. Okay.
You are so cute. Just get off.
But
Get off.
I'm
And look at this beautiful being. Who knew? Who knew she was so beautiful? Right. Brittany, come on up, darling. Would love to hear what you have to say.
yes, but
Let me go back. Oh, go on, Chef.
let me go back to what Miss Edna said earlier about kids in therapy. This is my personal opinion. I think that a child going to therapy is a waste of money and time. Because here's why. Because the child is not going to understand therapy. Okay, they think it's playtime. I was in therapy as a child. Yeah, I got nothing from therapy up until the time I was 25 years old. I legitimately
Really?
got nothing from
Wow.
therapy. That's when I started actually doing the work in therapy and started pulling out my childhood issues that I had problems with when I was 5 and 4 years old that I never addressed, that I really grew up with, and it really had me, in a different space. So I think as a child, unless you sit down with your kid and they're able to comprehend and understand that they need to go there and talk about this and blah, 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 and how this is going to help them. But you have to explain it. You cannot just send a kid to therapy here. You're going to therapy because you're too bad. And that's where our parents didn't tell us about therapy. Well, my parents didn't tell me about therapy. Honestly, my parents didn't say nothing about therapy because they never went. Hell, my mom still deals with personal issues, and I tell her right now, you need therapy, but you can't. I said you ain't healed. You haven't healed, and that's as an adult. If I had a child when I was in therapy, if they were able to comprehend it at a certain age, yes, it's worth it. But when you're at a 10-year-old, 9-year-old, therapy for what?
But
They haven't
wouldn't
even
it
lived
be
through the
the
trauma.
But wouldn't it be the mental health experts' responsibility to, come up with an effective therapy for these ages? Because you
Yes and
have
no.
children that go through traumatic events and they need help then, not when
No,
because if they're
true.
stuck at that age, they won't ever progress to the point to where they can, they'll be developed to understand it at a deeper level.
So I think that's right, but the problem with that is you can't trust in the professional, because there are some of them who are going to be truthful honest with you, but there are going to be some who just want that extra check from your insurance and
Yeah.
from you.
Yeah.
So I would take it with a grain of salt or get a second or third opinion. But a child has to know. I'm screaming here, you're wrong. I mean, listen, every case is different, case by case. But to send a child through therapy, I think they really have to be in a certain place where they have to need it for one. Not only that, they have to understand therapy. I went to therapy as a child for a lot of, and guess what? It didn't help. It was the time I go and play with cards and talk.
But
It
was
didn't
it
mean
was
no
it
good.
was it the therapy or was it the therapist? Because sometimes
See, I was
therapists
so
don't work.
young, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
That could have been too. That could have been too. But for me, it didn't work.
Was it the therapy? The
Can we
therapist.
can we
I
just
go on my camera?
Sometimes therapists don't
yeah,
work.
you're on. You're
No
on
way!
You gotta turn off.
Oh shit!
Oh, you've got another beauty.
Her volume.
Let me pause you.
Hi.
I've never been on YouTube before. Shut up, Bridge.
TV. TV.
Right.
gotta turn off that
You need to
YouTube.
turn off. I've muted her for a second.
Yeah.
Brittany, you
She gotta
need to
turn off
turn
YouTube.
off. Can you hear me? You need to turn off YouTube, darling. Otherwise, we get
She's
echoes.
so-
Turn off
She's
YouTube.
so excited.
You're right, Capone. You're right.
Right, turn
Oh,
off
man.
YouTube.
Hey,
Yeah, I've never been on here before.
Right.
Hi.
Hi.
And we've also got somebody else. This is cool, guys. This is cool. Welcome, Zena.
Zena, hey Zena.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
we can hear you,
This-
darling.
loud and clear.
You're a really pretty voice, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Me?
I'm
I thought you
also from the UK.
No, not you.
Chef.
But your voice is pretty as well.
I'm going to mute Chef.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, hello everyone. Yes,
Hello,
I'm from the
darling.
UK too, Jan, but I'm not
No, but
North.
about the whole therapy thing, I do agree that everybody does need therapy. Not everybody, but I think more people than you would actually think. You know, like especially in our community, if you actually really want to think about it, how'd you get involved, right? You watch somebody who either starves themselves or sits there and overeats, and Amberlynn and Chantel, and then I got involved with watching Eugenia. So in our own ways, we all have our own issues. I don't see a problem with therapy. I've been going to therapy since I was 12 years old, you know, and it had to do with other things like OCD, stuff like that. But there's nothing wrong with admitting that you're trying to get over or being a part of yourself, like trying to get out of that box. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with it. And when I watch Foodie, like Chantel, when I watch her, she's hurt my feelings a few times and everything like that. But I have to tell you, in some aspects, she does help me. She'll say some things. Or with Amberlynn, she'll do things and it helps me. Why? Because I learned from her mistakes. And it's not always the negative. It's us that you want to bring in the positive. And that's all. So that I didn't want to say. And this is so weird fucking being up on YouTube. Yo, this is so fucking weird.
Oh, we're all
You're doing
old-timers.
great.
But thank you.
Anyway, Zena, thanks for that. Thanks for sharing that, Brittany. That's really good. Yeah, it's nice to hear so many different opinions on it. And you know, and it's quite interesting that what you said about Foodie, because I think Edna also feels the same way about Foodie, but I get triggered by it, so I can't.
Here's the thing: is people are going to get triggered by different things,
Yeah.
and I found the eating disorder community. I want to call it not girl world, eating disorder community, because the thing is that we all have something where we all care about our weight. We all either like to watch people eat. That's all eating disorders, symbols, like whatever. People can get mad at me or whatever about that, but it's the truth. You know?
Right.
We all like to watch Eugenia. We all like to watch Foodie. We all like to watch Amberlynn. And, you know, you researched basically women's diets or these people's diets and what they wanted to be like and stuff like that. And so that's why you started following them, right? Because that's why I did. And it wasn't just necessarily for weight loss. It was also me being lonely. And I'll be honest, I was sitting at home and I didn't have a boyfriend at the time. And what I was doing is I was watching Foodie eat because she was somebody to eat with. I never really did with that, like Amber, but like I definitely did it with Chantel for sure. And it's more so of the fact that like I don't think that they're these horrid whatever people, because they're not. I do think that there's a lot of issues that they're going through. And yeah, therapy is going to be great for the both of them, but it's not my place to even fucking say shit, if that makes sense. My boyfriend just got in. You guys want to say hi to Gary?
Yeah.
I spent $50 on Chinese food. I didn't mean it. All right, say hi. Come here. No, he doesn't want to say hi.
Okay,
Okay.
can we move over to Zena? As much as we'd love to meet your gorgeous boyfriend, I'd like to hear what Zena had to say as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I find that fascinating what you said about foodies. So maybe we can get back to that in a little while. But let's talk about let's see what Zena has to say.
Hi. I've my main thing. I've been therapy myself, very similar to what the lady before me was just saying about, EDs and all that. I'm like Eugenia, inpatient, all that stuff. But when it comes to my child is severely autistic. He's 11, but he's got like the mental age of a 5-year-old. And of recently, past, I would say 4 years, when my father had passed, he's been having
sorry.
it's okay. He has very vivid dreams of like his past life, and to extreme detail, and he remembers how he died. He remembers his family name, everything you can imagine. So he would say it here and there, and I tried to validate it, but I didn't go into much detail. Anyway, with the pandemic and there was no schooling for him, he was out of school completely without any help, resources for 2 full years.
Wow.
We had nobody to help him. I couldn't help him because he had his special needs. I didn't even know how to
Right.
navigate it. Anyway, when he got into his special needs school, which is like, a bunch of, let's call him Jack, a bunch of Jacks. And he felt like he was, at home. And then all of a sudden, this anxiety just came out of nowhere, and he couldn't get out of bed, and he was feeling sick. And then he kept having dreams that every time he'd look at someone, they'd set on fire and die, and he didn't want to hurt anybody. And he was just a mess. And his school reached out to, we have a thing under the NHS called CAMS, which is Children Adult Mental Health. And if anyone knows of CAMS in Britain, they're an absolute piss take. That's all I'll say.
Oh, really?
They are
fucking
horrendous. Excuse my French.
Because I know that they're linked to schools, because when I was, working in schools, I know that they were like, an agency that the school would use.
Oh, no, they don't use that anymore. They just put you on to literally charities. And these charity people, when you see them, ring these numbers, who to talk to. It's the same whether it be Samaritans or whatever. It's a bunch of 16 to 18-year-olds that are getting the first job at university. They have a checklist of what to read and certain questions. They can't advise you on anything, nothing. I rang a personalized...
I really don't want to interrupt you, but I really want to go eat my Chinese food.
Enjoy it.
Okay, sweetness. Well, thank you so much for coming on. You take care of yourself,
Bye,
darling.
Brittany.
Bye.
Bye, darling.
All right, adios, guys. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I rang a specific eating disorder line once, and there was this young lad. He sounded like, again, he was 16 years old, and he was on a checklist like, how are you feeling? And I said, I feel, I'm at the end of blah, blah, blah. And he said, have you tried making yourself a cup of tea and a biscuit?
Oh,
And I thought, I have an eating disorder
no.
here. I don't need a fucking biscuit to don't give my brew. Are you stupid? And you just lose hope. I put the phone down and fuck yous.
Oh my
And I just was done.
God.
And anyway, with CAMS, the school rang them 3 times in 1 week saying that they're scared about Jack's mental health, that he's declining, he needs urgent seen to right now. And all they did was ring me and told me these charities to ring and just wait for an appointment. And he's classed
Yeah.
as urgent. 9 months I waited. 9 months. And I couldn't cope. So I had to drop out of uni for other reasons. And I had my uni money there. And I used that. And it's £160 for 45 minutes for a private CBT. And we've had at least over 20 sessions. And the thing is what Chef was saying about how kids don't understand therapy. Kids don't
Right.
understand when they're learning things in general. When they're at school, they're not knowing that they're learning maths when they're playing games of counting 1, 2, and 3. It's all through games. It's all through play. Children don't kind of know when they're learning something that you acquire in the world. Obviously, it's different with teenagers, but in primary school age, it's all about learning through play. And that's the same with therapy, especially in a young child. It's not sat there with a blackboard and this is how it is. It's very much through play and, teachings. And, but Jack does pet therapy. He absolutely loves that, how to be humble, how to be caring. He does Reiki. I
Yeah.
don't know if anyone's heard of Reiki before.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
I heard
have.
of it.
And he's very much like, he's very linear. So if you was to give him a stick and said, that stick has got the healing power of the world, it's going to make you feel safe, he'll keep on to that. So it's like a placebo effect. But do you know what? If that gives him, I don't necessarily believe in the power of crystals, and I don't knock anyone who does, but he holds on to them crystals for dear life. And at least it gets him out of bed in the morning, that he's got
Yeah.
some kind of hope, and I think if them resources weren't made available for Jack, who is only, he's 11 on Sunday, then I think I would have been in a very hard place, because his fear is being in pain as well. And the fact is that he actually contemplated of putting himself in pain so no one else would get hurt. It could have transpired into a lot, and they only will intervene, unfortunately, is when they physically hurt themselves. But when they do hurt themselves, they just put them in a loony bin, and that's all they do until they're safe, and then they let them go again. There's no real intervention. Even though we have NHS, and I know compared to America, I mean, I can't even fathom what you have to do, but the NHS, they very much surface level, that you don't go really submersive into people's problems, and people can't pay private here, and then getting on the waiting list for private is even ridiculous. So you're between a rock and a hard place, and there's so many children that are so neglected, because there's everything's stretched, there's no money for anything. So I understand where Chef was coming from, and I don't know whether that's maybe because of an age thing, because back when I was a kid, there was nothing like that either, and I think I'm roughly the same age as Chef. But now,
Okay.
I think with the world being how it is and being more autistic, ADHD aware, and, trying to navigate the world in that kind of way, we're much more open to it. But I definitely think that even just a talk therapist with children, just to pull them to the side, like, how are you doing today? Is everything okay? And just having that of, because sometimes talking to a stranger in obviously safe settings is easier because you're not being judged. You may
Yeah.
have to have like a what's it called? You may have to, like at home, you're the eldest one, and you have to have that kind of responsibility. Yeah, and whereas you can't show weakness, whereas at school you've got to show that way. But if you put to a side, you can be weak and vulnerable, and it's okay.
Yeah. Can I think I've spoken to you before, Zena.
You
I'm
probably
sure
have.
I've heard your story before, and you know, my
I'm
heart
under a
bleeds
different name
for you.
because of
Yeah,
some people in the community have details, I suppose. So that's why. But
oh,
they won't listen. They won't watch out for me. It was years ago, but you know, just in case.
yeah. There were a couple of things I wanted to ask you. Has he been diagnosed? Has he got a
The
diagnosis?
yes and no. We've been waiting for Jack since. I mean, I've got two that are on the spectrum that are completely different to each other. You can't. Pinky in the brain, like mice of men. This is how my kids are. Honest to God, like Winnie the Pooh and Tasmanian Devil. They trigger each other off so much. Now the little one, because he is so destructive. Let's call him Barry. Why not?
Okay.
So Barry is crazy. So he was seen to like immediately put on the assessment to wait. Anyway, we waited 2 years for his initial assessment. And he had his initial assessment, which was just the basic, like he's non-verbal, right? So they were asking me, does he tell you how he wants to hurt himself or end his life? I was like, no, he's non-verbal. Like, don't be an idiot. So anyway, I've got to wait for a next appointment, which is the developmental history. And as far as I was aware, that was going to be like 2 more weeks. And then, you know, overall, it would have taken 2 years for the diagnosis. No. I've got to wait another 2 years for that developmental history. Then another 2 years for the ADOS one, which is where, you know, they see how they interact. Then he'll get a diagnosis. So that's from Barry. So it's about 6 years. Jack is still waiting. He's still, even though he's been on it since he was 4. So he's coming up to 11 and he's still not technically been diagnosed, but he has an EHC plan and he's treated as if he has got autism and ADHD and is at special needs school. So technically on paper, no. And I'm going private for that now because I can't wait another 6 years because he'll be finished high school by the time he gets official diagnosis.
You still have to wait for the ADOS?
Yeah. So I've got the initial assessment, which basically just says like everything of like when did I first notice things, more mental health, developmental history.
It's just crazy because the ADOS is just a questionnaire.
Exact. And the developmental history is literally a phone call to me. I wrote everything down and I took it to them to give, and he went, "Oh, just when they phone you, just read off that." And I thought, can you just not take it and add to the paperwork? Like, no, you've got to wait. But the ADOS, like you said, it's just, they just monitor what they do, don't they? And how they react with playing and that. But no, it's another 2 years from the, and I think it's my specific area. It's ridiculous. So all in all, rather than it being 2 to 3 years of waiting, which is still ridiculously long, it's pretty much 6 to 7 years.
Wow.
And if you add, well, you probably know, Bridget, but when children get to the age of 7, that's when they pretty much stop in terms of like, you know, have you learned about like, you know, between nature and nurture and feral children? There's two things that make you a human being, they say, and that's communication / language and the ability to feel empathy. And if you're not taught any kind of that, by the time you're 7, you're classed as being feral. And obviously, so kids can obviously learn bilingual, all that very easy. That's why they say teach them young. So by the time they get to 7, they can't really, what's the word? Not necessarily be healed, but they can't get any better. They can only regress. So it's obviously trying to know where they are and trying to sort of move with them. They'll never get better from that if there's no intervention prior for them being 7. Now Jack didn't have that until he was 9, so they said that his mental age will only get up to a maximum of 14. So that's like, you know, really sad. And obviously my youngest is coming up to 5 now and they're at the same mental age. So it's really hard. It's not, you know, to see that my 5-year-old is beating kind of my eldest in every way when I could have done more, when I didn't know about any of this. You know, I was only a young mum when I kind of had Jack. So it's just a long time. That's the thing. The NHS is great for some things and it's terrible for others.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you there, because, you know, moving up a bit from adult, you know, to adults even.
Yeah.
I've had treatment all my life, basically, but I was never diagnosed with a mental illness until a few years back. So
Wow.
any of the treatment that I've had hasn't really helped my mental illness.
Yeah.
And so I'm told, it's like we talked about it the other week. I've been told that I should actually be receiving, you know, DBT. But
Yeah.
because I've already had CBT, they've said that I have to pay for DBT. Well, can you imagine how much that is?
Well, if it's
Mhm.
£160 up here and you're in London, so it's probably going to be at least 250 quid easy
Exactly.
a
So
session.
I
Yeah.
at the moment, I mean, when people say, "Oh, you're not being treated for it," listen, you have no idea what it's like, and I know for a fact that the American health service is actually worse than ours.
I know
Mhm.
that's saying something, and
Yeah.
ours is
Yeah,
diabolical, so I can't even imagine.
Well, I can kind of speak to that a little bit since I just recently have kind of like gone through getting mental health in America. Well, and it's really by the state. So with my state insurance, it's covering my therapy, it seems so far, knock on wood. It
Oh,
and I've had, yeah, so I'm really thankful for that. And I've scheduled my therapist for like a month out at this point. Like it's a new therapist and she's like, to get started, we want to do weekly meet, like
yeah,
with the treatment plan. And it's no question as to like the pricing and all of that. So and from everything I've seen, there's no like surprise bills when it comes to anything. Like they let you know upfront if you qualify for treatment and things of that nature. So I'm pleasantly surprised so far.
but even if you
how
got a
long?
private diagnosis here, in some places, like you can get it, and for autism, for the area that I'm at, it can be like 4,000, and
Oh,
ADHD is
Wow.
not as expensive. It's about 1,000, but with ADHD, you can have medication, and that's kind of where the money comes from. Whereas autism, you don't. However, um, if you went and got a private one, and even if you went again with, it's called a NICE guidelines, they're called. If you adhere to them, you do all the QB tests, go under Dexter, all that stuff, it's still not recognized by certain establishments, because what they say is that, well, you've gone private and you paid for a diagnosis. It's like, no, it's still recognized, but certain institutions, so whether it be schools or whether it be faculties, anything like that, they'll say, oh no, you've got a private diagnosis, you're not getting it, you have to go through the NHS because it's legitimate then. And I think that is, if people have got the money to, then they should do, and you're being penalized for that, so you can't win.
Yeah, I think also it's geographical as well.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
I can
100%.
tell by your accent you come from up north.
Yes.
And I must say that I think, I hope I'm not wrong in saying it, but I do think that down south, it's a bit better. Uh,
Yeah.
there's a lot more private doctors, and also, I mean, if you're affiliated to, or if you're, accepted, excuse me, by a big hospital that happens to have a very good mental health clinic, you would get more help that way.
Yeah.
I don't know whereabouts you are, but I mean, it sounds an awful thing to say, but have you considered moving up or down south to maybe get help for the boys, or is that completely out of the question?
To be honest with you, I've actually and we were actually very close to actually considering of moving countries actually to America. And the reason why is because my partner works all around the world. And he's gone away for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time. And basically, there's an option, and that's it for him to be relocated. And it's possible that he could be in Colorado. And from the research that I've done, apparently it's one of the best states for like people with autism, for help, for schools, all that. And with his insurance, it would cover the boys. So that's the thing we're even considering.
I would definitely consider that. Absolutely, because I mean, not so much for mental health, I don't know, but I know because I have members in the family that have, disabilities. And even in that situation, even for physical disabilities, America does seem to have certain hospitals, certain sort of university hospitals or something they call them, and they have like the top doctors, the top consultants, but and as long as you're covered by the insurance,
I
would
can't even tell you
definitely
the
consider
difference
it.
though, Jan. I don't know if you've been I'm like Manchester way, like that area. I don't know if it's obvious. I don't think
I
I'm
could
that.
tell by the
Is
accent you
it
were
okay? I
probably
didn't think it
there.
was that strong. I'm not like Oasis, the kid kind of. But even when we went down to London, I mean, I've been London a couple of times. It's leaps and bounds ahead. I mean, I'm not in Manchester, I'm in the suburbs of Manchester, but the London are leaps and bounds ahead of us. When contactless payments started, we were 2 years behind that. We were like, you've got the underground, that is amazing. I've never known, everything moves so quickly. And whereas here, up here is like, do you remember the film Billy Elliot? Like we're still stuck in the 1980s of working hard labor men, bald-headed men, hard labor jobs, go to the pubs. That's very much what it's like. There's no diversity other than you've got, and it's split, unfortunately. You've got the white folks on one side, and then you've got the Muslim community on the other, and never the two shall meet because it's war. It's horrible where I live. Until you go into actual Manchester city, then it's full of diversity, which is lovely. But
I've been to Manchester once. I went to
the city's great. The city's full of diversity.
Studio City, because I did a program there. And
I went to see Jeffree Star there once. Oh God!
Did you?
Yes.
I would have loved to have seen Jeffree Star.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. Anyway, do you know what's so funny is that, I think the Americans consider Britain to be like really tiny compared to America, and indeed it is. But
it's tiny in size, but I mean, you only have to go 5 miles out in either direction, and it's a different culture, it's a different way of thinking, different accents. Like what do you have? What's that? Pie and mash?
Pie and mash.
What's that about? It's chips and gravy up here. It's like it makes no. It's
do you know it's making a comeback? Pie and mash is making a comeback.
Oh, you can get fucked. It's hanging. No, it's disgusting.
It's really weird because Americans feel that all the Brits sort of have the same accent and everything, and we're all the same. And
the only ones I hear on here is you, Irate Alex, and Death, who've all got the London accent. It's like, no, we're not all like that. We're not all from London.
No, because listen, Jan was like, I can tell you're from up north because your accent. I'm just like, you and Jan sound the same to me. I don't know.
Bridget and I was like, okay, cool.
No, really? I'm not that broad. And then it was funny because I know it's a bit off topic, but when like I said, I will go right off it. But when who was it that it was DC that said Ira Alex was from Birmingham because he was like a Peaky Blinders. It was like, that's Birmingham, that's even more north than what I am. Thought that was so funny. So funny. It was like, you don't even know a Brummie. Could you imagine?
Do you know what? I can't understand how the Americans can't differentiate our accents.
Liverpool is the best fucking accent going. I fucking
Yeah.
love Liverpool.
I
Can't
don't
understand
like
fucking
Liverpool.
word they say.
But you know what? I don't know whether it's the same in America, but you know, as Zena just said, you know, we can go, get in the car and just drive
Yeah.
2 hours, 2
Mhm.
hours, and everyone will be speaking with a different accent,
Yeah,
and we can
100%.
recognize it as well.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
because even like London, like North London, East London. Are you North London?
yeah,
Right, yeah, yeah. And then there's like East, obviously East End. Even they're like all completely different. And then
yeah,
even oh my God. And then you've got Essex, that's not far out, but that's even a little bit more over the top. And then you've got Cambridge, that's like complete, it's crazy. I know it's
yeah.
like, but they're all still very close to each other, but completely different accents.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I was actually brought up in the Essex countryside, so
Oh, okay.
I've got a little bit of an Essex twang sometimes, but not like the Romford twang. You
Not
know,
like
the
what you see
Romford
on
twang,
Only Ways
like where
Essex
they
and
all
all
sort of
that.
talk like that, and
Yeah.
yeah, and they don't
Yes.
sound their T's, and you know what I mean, and da, da, da. Yeah, I don't
All
speak.
right, darling. All right, all right. God.
You know,
So,
all I'm hearing is I like tea and crumpets. I like tea and
No,
scones.
you can't. Honestly, that is the
I
most
like cottage
smallest part.
cream.
No, honestly, we're disgusting, the Britons. Like, you think that we're all posh and that. A lot of us are just disgusting. Like,
Oh.
we're not nice and prim and proper at all. It's like we're scum.
no.
Don't worry.
Well, do you know
You should just
what?
blame the Spice Girls.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
Spice Girls, that's a good one. With because you've got Mel C, Sporty Spice, who's a
She's
Scouser.
up north, yeah.
Mel B, oh my God, she's from Leeds. Oh, that is the worst. That's no offense to people from Leeds, but
Yeah,
and
bad
Poorly
accent.
and Poorly there. Oh, it's horrible.
Emma
Victoria
Bunton,
Beckham.
she's an Essex girl, isn't
Yeah,
she? Emma
yeah. Go,
Bunton.
oh, baby, baby, yeah. And then you've got Victoria Beckham, and she's London way.
I think she's London. Yeah, she
Jerry's
is.
London as
Her
well.
accent's similar to mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is funny. But I tell you what we're going to do. This leads really well because I'm going to round it up now
Yes.
and
Sorry.
say thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
everybody who took part, and especially you, Zena. And you know, keep me informed as to how your boys are doing. You know, I am genuinely interested in that, and I wish you the very best. But
Yes.
I'm going to link into this and say I think next Wednesday, why don't we do Americans versus
Oh my God, yes. Yes.
yeah,
That's so much fun.
who's up for that?
Yes, because they could be the stereotypes, and then you could mention about the food and what
Let's
you're.
do that.
Yes, that would be
Let's have
so
a
fun.
light-hearted wellness
I love that
Wednesday
idea. Yeah.
next week. So all come along and we'll have that like with us four. It'll be an absolute scream. I
Yes.
think it will be
Yeah.
great. Okay, so
Brilliant.
I want to say thank you so very much to everybody who's
Thank
come
you.
up, chatted with me. God bless you, Zena, and God bless your boys.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
and I'll see the other two troublemakers around.
Bye,
And
everyone.
yeah, if
Bye.
everyone wants to say goodbye, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves.
Bye.
Bye bye
Bye.
for now.